Hey guys, I'm super excited because today and for the next 3 weeks, well, including today, so today, next Friday, and following Friday, I am partnering up with Megan from Snipsandsnails, and we are doing a budgeting series, which is different from my channel because I do not talk budgeting a lot on this channel. But I do have some things I'd love to share with you guys, and at the same time, I'd love to get some feedback from you guys on how you guys budget for these certain things in your family. So she and I are talking about similar ideas for the next few weeks on our channels, but we're not doing the exact same video every week just because that wouldn't be super helpful. So today I'm talking about grocery budgeting, keeping meal costs low, etc., while still keeping them healthy. And she is doing an overview of their budget, including like the envelope system, cash system, etc. And where this was born from was I was talking with her on Instagram. And she and I, talk often on Instagram. We're YouTube buddies. And she was talking about budgeting, and a lot of people were asking her, like, how do you budget without credit? And, or how do you do things without credit? And I don't know why we got on this topic, but somehow we mentioned like, oh, we also don't do credit in our family. And we started talking about how, just different tips and tricks that we use to make that function for our family. It doesn't necessarily mean that our income is high enough that everything's just easy, but it does mean that for the longest time, as far back as we can both remember, we've had to budget and just work without credit. And for us, the reason for that was that we got married young and neither one of us had decent credit or even established credit. And so we didn't have the option to use credit at the beginning of our marriage, and we had kids quickly. And so because of that, we had to learn to budget for things, and it just became our lifestyle. And so we've never done, we've done car payments, but we pay ourselves first and then buy the car, for example, things like that. So that's my only budgeting story. It's not like a super interesting one. We've not done Dave Ramsey, although we do follow some of his concepts. But it's just basically got married young, we had the money we had, and we had to make it work. And so it's just, we added our kids one at a time, and we've, worked our budget out one kid at a time. So today we're talking about grocery budgeting and keeping meal costs low on my channel. So make sure you pop on over to her channel after this video to get another perspective on using the envelope system and saving for certain things. So the first tip I have, and these are just tips, this isn't like an overview or a system, but I just learned a few tricks along the way that I would love to share, and then in return, I would also love for you guys to share your grocery and meal budgeting tips. So my first tip is to become very familiar with your grocery stores and shop the same stores. I used to just make a list based on what we wanted to eat and then shop at whatever store we were near to or wanted to shop at that week. And that, for us, like shopping at Aldi could be $150, shopping at Publix could be $275. So for the same foods, different brands or whatever. So I have this system where I have these 2 stores I basically always shop at. If I'm willing to drive 20 minutes, I'll shop at Aldi. If I am in a rush, I will do a Walmart online order. I'm familiar with the inventory of those stores. Example, Aldi does not sell buttermilk. So I won't put buttermilk biscuits on our menu that week. I mean, I know you can make your own buttermilk, but that's just the easiest example I can think of. They don't sell buttermilk. Walmart does not sell the cheddar puffs my kids love. So I'll just make a realistic grocery plan based on the grocery store I'm shopping at versus a plan based on what we want to eat that week. So when you become familiar with those grocery stores, you become very familiar with their prices, even if you're not like, super good at memorization. When you shop the same store every week for years, you become very familiar with their cost of things, and nothing's really that much of a surprise. So that's the first tip I have, is just to familiarize yourself with 1 or 2 grocery stores, their inventory, and their prices. The next tip that stems from that, I'm looking at my notes here, is taking your budget, if you have a budget, and breaking down the item cost, the most you'd be willing to spend per item. So it does take a little bit of time at home, but it saves me so much time at the grocery store. So say our grocery budget is $200 for that week. I will break down all of the dinners and ingredients, you know, put all my freezer section foods here, aisle food, whatever. I'll write down all of our ingredients for breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and snacks, whatever. You make your list. Then I'll go through, and I know the product cost in my head already for most of those items, or what I'd be willing to spend. So for example, organic cheese. Dairy is one that we try to buy organic, dairy, meat, and produce. So I'll write down, say, for organic cheese, we're gonna be using cheese in 2 meals this week. I really hope to spend around $7. I really don't want to spend more than $7. So I'll write down the cost for everything. For milk, for cheese, I'll write it down for apples, things that change seasonally like produce. I'll write down my top cost of what I'd be willing to spend, add it all up, and that should come out to close to what your budget is for the week. If I end up at, you know, $225 instead of $200, then I'll go back through and I'll revamp some of those meals, change some things, or remove some snacks or excess things, or say, okay, we're getting 2 rolls of paper towels this week instead of the big multi-pack. Just to try to balance that budget before I even walk into the grocery store. I do tend to grab a few extra things while I'm in there, but that doesn't usually add up to too much more than what my budget was. So it'll fluctuate by $10 or $15 here or there, but I don't have to do that either if we're really trying to stick to the budget. So that's really helpful, because then there's not that panic in the grocery store of like, oh, okay, like I don't know how much it's gonna be when I get up to the register, because I've made my little cheat sheet of what I'm willing to spend. If I cannot find organic cheese, 2 packs of organic cheese for $7, I have 2 options. One option is to borrow from another product, which would be like kombucha for us is optional. It's not necessary. So I can say, okay, I was gonna get 4 jars of kombucha. It was gonna be $12. Now I'm gonna get 3, that's $9, and I can easily keep this cheese in our budget. Or I modify, maybe it's not something necessary. I'll say, okay, well, I don't need cheese this week because it was just a topping for tacos and we'll survive without cheese. And then that now has freed up an additional $7 in our budget. So itemizing things like that, keeping them individual, really helps with quick decision making, especially if you're shopping with kids in the grocery store. So that is my first tip there. Or no, that's not my first tip. Sorry, that's my 3rd tip. But it all kind of stems from the same thing. Knowing your store well enough to know the prices, making a list, and then making decisions based on each item. Another good tip is to know what stores you can and cannot walk into. For me, it is Sam's Club, and so take advantage of the pickup options. I cannot go into Sam's Club without, no lie, going like $100 to $150 over what my intentions were, because everything looks like a really good option for our family. So I'm gonna do Sam's Club. It almost always has to be pickup, unless it's like a time where I don't have a budget. I just am going to go to Sam's Club, stock up on things, etc. It has to be that way for me. Another tip is to always have a good cheapo meal option in the back of your mind. So again, Aldi or Walmart, you know, just whatever. Those are the ones I'm super familiar with. I'm also familiar with Publix, but they changed, and I only really shop there for the buy one get ones when those rotate. So at Aldi, I can get a box of organic whole wheat pasta for $1.99, a jar of organic Alfredo sauce for $2.99, and a bag of frozen broccoli, which is on the clean 15, so I'm willing to get it not organic for $1.29. So what is that? $6.50 or so. I've got a meal that will feed my family. It's not the healthiest because it's processed, but it does fit into what our family mindset is, or what our goals are, which is to try to buy organic when you can. So the reason behind this is, one, prices are just outrageous and they're not what you expected, and you just really can't make a quick switch in the grocery store to making something work. Another thing is maybe they're out of the meat that you wanted, and now you don't even know, now your whole chicken dinner is ruined because they don't have the chicken. Instead of having to go to another grocery store where the prices are much higher, or just buying a crappy frozen pizza because you ran out of options, you have this budget meal in the back of your mind, 3-4 ingredients, easy peasy. It's always like pasta for us because organic pasta and sauce is cheap, but it is processed. So I just try to have an idea like that in the back of my mind for something quick that I can grab so there's not a panic and there's not a resorting to something unhealthy or something that, for example, you know, back in the day, if they were out of something, I would just go to the deli and buy like a pre-made meal or like a chicken, rotisserie chicken dinner, which for our family, we need to get 2 of those. And now that's $25, where maybe I was just trying to grill some chicken breasts in the first place and it was only gonna be like $12. So having an option like that, an easy option in the grocery store to fall back on should they be out of what you were wanting, is a really good thing to keep in mind. Another tip is obvious, and I'm sure most of you guys know that, but it is convenience over effort. So for me, I set aside an hour to 2 once a week. You guys have seen those videos when I can to prep some things so that I save money and save resources on prepackaged or pre-chopped produce, snacks, and meals. So it's easy enough for me to quickly mix up some baked oatmeal or some overnight oats. Saves money on the convenience packs of oatmeal. Also, it's a little healthier. Same goes for granola or, you know, chopping fruit or prepping breakfast, prepping lunches. And I also make sure in that meal prep to have a list of foods that we just rotate through. So I pick 3 lunches and 3 breakfasts every week, and we just rotate through those a couple of times. One of them we will either, you know, do 3 times instead of 2. Usually it is oatmeal or eggs or something. Or for lunches, sometimes the kids and I will pick up something while we're out, or they'll go to a grandparent's house for lunch. I almost always have smoothies, so I don't rotate my lunches as much. So for the kids, at least 1 day a week, they'll be with my father-in-law or with my mom, or maybe we'll swing by Chick-fil-A. But I have 3 meals that we rotate. That keeps it really easy. So like sandwiches, a snacky lunch, and a packed lunch, like hard-boiled eggs. We'll go on a bike ride and do a picnic lunch. And then we just do each of those twice. So that keeps things really easy. I'm not trying to come up with a different breakfast, a different lunch, and a different dinner for all 7 days of the week. Now, another thing is to utilize leftovers and make a realistic meal plan. Survey your fridge, what you are and aren't using every week. For us, I was always buying enormous things of salad spring mix, and we just weren't finishing it, but then I was repurchasing it, or it was gonna go bad before I went to the grocery store the next time, so I was purchasing more, and then we'd use up, you know the drill. It's always spring mix for us. So I started buying it in smaller quantity, even though I really liked that it was $5 for a big thing of it and only $3, and you know, it was triple the amount of the small thing of it. In reality, I was wasting $2 every week because we weren't even using that much. So taking a survey of your fridge, what you are and aren't eating, so you stop purchasing the same things in hopes that you'll eat them, when in reality you're just throwing money. And it's $2 and it's $3 here and there, but you know, if that over time, say over the course of a month, that really adds up to, you know, say $34 that you're just blowing at the end of the month that you could be either saving or using towards something that you guys actually are going to eat. Another tip is to pay attention to side dishes. And that's for 2 reasons. 1, for health, and 2, for budget. So back to the idea of a chicken dinner. Say you're just gonna use one of those like roast chicken, and those are like 12 bucks or so, and then maybe you need to grab some seasoning because you're out of seasoning, that's $2. So that meal, or that chicken dish, is $14. But you can't just eat chicken, so you want to have side dishes. So you're gonna make like a potato casserole, and then get a veggie medley and some rolls, some frozen rolls. You now spent on the sour cream and the cheese and the seasonings for that potato dish or whatever. You've now doubled the cost of that meal because the chicken was like $12 or $14. Now all the ingredients for the side dishes are also $12 or $14. What you can do is take the side dishes back, cut them back, steam up some carrots that you already have in your fridge, or you're already buying carrots for something but you don't need that many, just paying attention to things like that. One, it's healthier, and two, it's adding $1 or $2 more or adding nothing because you already have the ingredients for another meal. A fresh salad, fresh fruit, raw veggies and dip, things you might already have, or instead of a potato casserole, just a good old baked potato or a baked sweet potato. It's much healthier and you're only adding a couple of extra dollars. For me, the money always goes into our side dishes when I notice that our grocery cost is getting higher. To combat that, because I love to cook, I make a really nice meal on Sundays and I pull out all the stops and I make the nice side dishes and the nice appetizer, and I make the rolls on Sundays. So I still am not denying that I love to cook and I love that side of being a homemaker, but it's keeping it in check, keeping it realistic, and keeping our budget down. And also, it's much healthier to just roast up or steam up a fresh veggie versus making all these very ingredient heavy side dishes. Oh, and then the last tip I have, and this is not for everyone, but it has worked well for our family. We cut down a lot on our meat consumption years ago, not because of budget, but we just noticed that we feel better with not as much meat and dairy. Now, you guys know my meal videos, they fluctuate. Sometimes we have more, sometimes we have less, sometimes we have all, sometimes we have none. But generally, we try to balance it out like 60-40 on meat and non-meat dishes. Naturally, that keeps our costs low. Because we are still eating meat, I don't always substitute the vegetarian dinners with tofu or anything like that, because we are eating meat other days, we're getting protein, from other sources. So I'm not ultra concerned with having to raise the cost by supplementing any proteins. But we just noticed that naturally our grocery budget, our cost fell down a little bit. And you can say, yes, organic produce is expensive, but it's not as expensive as meat for a family of 6. Maybe it is double the cost to buy some organic lettuce, but you're doubling $3 versus adding an entire, $15 in steaks or a roast or things like that. So it does balance itself out, and we do tend to fall on the lower side budget-wise when we are not eating as much meat. So getting a good stockpile of vegetarian-friendly dishes, or just dishes that don't use as much meat, dishes that use a pound of beef for a whole pot of, or even for a whole pot of spaghetti sauce, stir fries that use maybe 2 chicken breasts for your whole family instead of 1 chicken breast per person. Just cutting down on the meat and dairy really helps with the cost as well. So if you guys have any tips, share them below. Make sure you pop over to Megan's channel. I'm gonna link that up here again. I'm really excited because she shares really great budgeting tips on Instagram, and this is definitely more of like her style. So I apologize if this wasn't super helpful. Run to her channel, it will be helpful. And I will see you guys soon. And don't forget that for the next 2 weeks, we're talking budgeting, homeschooling budgeting, date night budgeting, vacation budgeting, all of it. So I will see you guys back here soon. Hope it helped. Bye.